Ladies and gentlemen, nerds and neckbeards. Welcome to a continuation episode of Westworld. Wheneverly. This is Sunday Fun Day. Part 2.
We never talked about the drinks as we actually made them, Dave. We have 100% orange juice. No pulp, I notice.
It has pulp in it.
Does it have pulp?
Well, it's like... it's 100% juice, so when you shake it up, the pulp kind of blends in, and it's not
Florida
pulpy
orange
though.
juice.
It's not. It's Tropicana.
It's not extra.
We don't like the extra shit.
I like orange juice you can chew.
Really?
I do.
What's wrong with you?
And we used Corbel.
Well, yeah, whatever. It was the champagne, California champagne.
Yep.
The typical one you buy at Costco.
Yep.
So
over ice with a drizzle of cranberry juice on the top.
That's right.
Add a little tartness to our weekend mimosa. Also, we have giant goblets of this, which is pretty
This
great.
is not like a little mimosa glass that you got.
It's not a champagne flute, guys.
We're not drinking champagne.
You gotta go with the goblet.
We're
go with the Game of Thrones style.
We have to throw back to Westworld Westeros wheneverly. So because we're spinning off.
We spun ourselves off.
Spin. Okay.
Episode 7.
7. What's the title of this one?
Trompe de l'œil, which is French.
Oh.
And it means, do you have any idea, Stump Dave, what Trompe de l'œil means?
Lick President Trump?
Trompe? No. Trompe means trick. And then l'œil means of the eye, a trick of the eye. It is a visual illusion, my friend, an art thing. As the artist, as a resident artist, I've always been impressed by the Trompe de l'œil paintings, which are so lifelike, so three-dimensional looking that it feels like you could touch the objects in there. That they are so perfectly rendered with light and shadow. That they appear to trick you into thinking that they are 3D. That you're looking at something real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The actual definition is, the second definition is what I think is important to our podcast.
Yeah.
A design intended to create the illusion of a three-dimensional object. A design intended to create the illusion
of a three-dimensional object.
Which is?
The hosts.
The hosts. So, episode 7, Trompe de l'œil.
Trompe de l'œil.
I guess it's just l'œil, Trompe l'œil.
Trompe l'œil.
And O-E-I-L is the French word for eye. Oeil.
Trompe l'œil.
So it's the eye, L apostrophe O-E-I-L. But that's hard to say, man. As a Bostonian English speaker, this is dude, this is a fucking hard word for me to say. I don't even know. I gotta tell you, and sometimes when I've been drinking, the word horror, the word H-O-R-R-O-R becomes hara. And my friends tease me mercilessly.
You say that's horrible?
Yeah, oh, dude, it was horrible. It was a hara.
Oh, man.
I'll never live it down. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers. This drink
looks like nothing to me. That comes up a bit in this episode. Okay, trick of the eye. We open with Bernard and his dying son.
Oh.
Yep. Everything would be what it isn't. He's reading from children's...
Is this a flashback?
Is it?
Is it?
Is
this Bernard's son or is this Arnold's son?
This is Bernard waking up from a bad dream. So as we talked about in our previous episode, please reference our previous episode for more information. We know that this is his...
Which we just recorded, by the way, because we're doing a twofer on the Sundays.
Sunday.
Sunday, come on down to Crazy Eddie's Westworld Wheneverly. Get yourself some beautiful podcasts. Crazy Conflatable Arm Waving Tube Man is on site.
Oh, I love that show so much. Okay, Bernard is having a dream.
Yeah.
And we talked about, or we theorized about whether or not the dream, like Maeve's dream of her daughter, is this sort of unifying principle around which the consciousness is built.
So do you think that this was maybe a previous version of Bernard in a previous build or something along those lines? Was this...
It could be real Arnold, right? Do we ever learn a lot about Arnold? I don't remember the ending. I don't remember
find
the
out in the next
big
3
episodes,
right?
Okay, and I have so many questions. Okay, so I'm going to just write down this one question so I don't forget it because, Sunday Fun Day.
Sunday Fun Day.
Okay, I think
What's the question?
No, it's going to be, who is Ford building in the end. We're going to come back to that, though.
We're coming back to that.
Okay. But so we open
First time I watched it, I thought it was Teresa, but let's just...
That's what I assumed as well, but if you look at the leg, it's like a thick, muscular leg. Like, there's a man leg. There's like a slab of meat there.
She could have some man legs.
She could.
I mean,
she could. I don't want to make any assumptions under the dress, but
she's not
you're
a
right.
dainty lady.
So,
she
but I don't know. But
legs.
who's he making?
I don't know.
So everything would be what it is.
We should start calling her man legs from now on.
Man legs. Yeah, it's not like we have too much.
We don't have much longer to talk about her, so all right.
Oh, Bernard is sitting down.
Can you tell we've already had our goblets once, at least?
Bernard is sitting down with Naked Hector to do analysis. You had an interaction in the park that, triggered your, that you had a black exchange or like some sort of somebody talked about something. Can you tell me what it was?
Yeah. And he's like, oh, this guy said he wanted to carve a piece off of me and carry it out. And you can see the tablet and you can see carry out is like highlighted in yellow and stuff, and keep it in his car, and car is like circled and highlighted because the hosts aren't supposed to understand what carry out of how you carrying it out of this world, right? And car, what the fuck is a car, right? There's no automobile, so
And so he's doing this analysis with him, and he says, I told him that if it's a trophy he wants, I will cut off his hand and give him his own trophy, whatever, and he goes,
did any of this bother you, or did and he's like, no, it didn't seem like anything, or
this world will still end in fire and blood, or whatever he says.
That's right.
Maybe the different show, but
and then apparently they have like a Turing test of their own, right? It's not a Turing test, right? Because so to speak. But
tell us what the Turing test is.
So the Turing test is a set of questions that you can ask a machine to determine if it is sentient or not. AKA, it's how you determine if your AI robot is going to become Skynet and kill us all.
Which they always will. That's what this show is ultimately going to tell us.
Not only is this show, but Elon Musk and everyone is like, AI is bad. Oh my God. Self-driving cars will eventually take over the world and kill the human race.
We are definitely tangenting. It's been a while since we've actually been loopy while
loopy
doing
drunk?
Yeah. Well, so these images look like nothing to me. They give him pictures of industrialization.
Yeah, they show him New York City, and they show him fucking Tokyo or some other place, and
these images look like nothing to me. Knocks on the door, and somebody comes in and is like, hey, when you're done with that guy, CEO wants him.
They said the board wants him for a priority call or something like that.
So send him up to fuck the CEO lady. Yeah. And then he's
we don't find that out till later, but
And he's like, where's Becky? I'm looking for Becky. Has anyone seen her?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, Becky's leave. She's on leave starting today.
No, I haven't seen her, but the system says she started leave today.
Yep. Oh, that's not suspicious at all.
Suspicious.
Now we jump to the train. We're back with William, Dolores, and Lawrence. Lawrence says to William, your friend Logan didn't make it this far. Maybe you've got more of an appetite for this than you think.
Oh my God. Hey, man in black. You're the man in black. Haha, you're going to love this shit one day.
Yep. Dolores and William get busy finally.
Oh man! But
after he talks about his fucking current girlfriend,
his current fiance,
he's insipid. William is an insipid, whiny baby.
But he's like, they're about to kiss, and he's like, I can't.
I have someone back home.
I have someone at home. I'm gonna marry. She's gonna be my wife.
Ugh,
and
gross.
Then Dolores runs out crying.
Yeah.
Like oh my God, how.
It's like he's in a story.
It's like he's in a story, right? And he rushes in after her, and he's like, but the real world doesn't make me feel like I've been pretending my whole life, and it's a great life. Don't get me wrong, and I love my life, but here I don't have to pretend.
Yep.
And then it's brown chicken, brown cows.
Yep. And she says, "What is it that you're looking for?"
We don't get to see any boobies.
This actress is wonderful, though. As she's reacting to his stuff,
she's got a cute butt too, which we don't see in this.
That's true. They all have cute butts. They all have cute butts on their little stools.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. Those stools are very butt flattering.
They are very butt flattering stools. They don't look comfortable at all. But
they don't look comfortable.
Do they flatter a butt?
Woo, you got some good butt posture there on that stool.
Let's see. Dolores asks William, "What is it that you're looking for?" And he tells her he wants to wake up inside a book. His only friends growing up were his stories, were books. He wanted to be part of a story.
He's in a story.
And Dolores says, "I don't want to be a story." She's sort of jumping ahead. There's the multiple scenes, but like they're all this one scene.
Yeah.
And after they bone, she's painting a picture.
Yeah.
And she says, I had a dream. I always just paint what I can see, and now I'm painting.
I'm always copying nature, the world around me, and now I wanted to draw something new.
Yeah, I used to think, and William says, I used to think that this place panders to your baser instincts, but it doesn't show you your baser self. It reveals your deepest self.
Yeah.
You've unlocked something in me.
I'm not a key, William.
Oh, it's so good. I'm not a key, William. It's such a perfect line for so many reasons. Because it's conflicted. You actually are, Dolores. Like, you were designed to be this key.
Yeah.
But, like, I get that you are not a key. You're resisting your own nature. There's something deeply compelling about that. Mm-hmm. Bernard and Tressa. Awkward. Tressa and the CEO lady.
So Bernard knows now that Tressa was smuggling data out of the park.
That's right.
And they're talking to Bernard.
He's like, she's like, hey, you left
so abruptly last night. We don't see that, right? We just, we've seen cut.
The last time we see is when he's on the phone.
Yeah.
And Becky's like, it's Teresa. It's Teresa. It's Catherine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Catherine's the mole.
Fucking Catherine.
And she's like, you left so abruptly. You left. I wonder what he left to do.
Yeah. Go kill Becky.
And it's super awkward.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah.
He's like,
And he's like, no. And so Teresa from there goes up to an even more awkward scene. Knock, knock.
Oh, yeah.
Come
on
in.
The door. Come in. And then you hear,
Yep.
Fucking CEO lady is fucking Hector.
Who is chained to her very fancy bed.
Yep.
A face scar, like talking shit.
He says something like, come back over here, and then he looks at Teresa and goes, you can bring your friend too.
And she's like, I'm sorry if I interrupted something. And naked CEO lady throws on a robe.
She's like, no, come on in. She like presses the button, Hector freezes.
Yeah, she has to press the button to freeze him, which I noticed. Yep. She wants to talk about the woodcutter and the sort of mission we realize in this scene, which is such a power play.
Yes.
Imagine if the CEO lady was a dude and he was just fucking like a female, or like it flipped the genders here.
Yeah.
Right? Like that wouldn't be as outrageous or wouldn't feel as outrageous of a power play as it is when this woman is doing it, right?
Yeah.
There's just they are casting this character as Stone Cold from the start.
It's not double-edged sword. It's
I don't know.
When like a man is like
sticky wicket.
No, a man is like revered for sleeping with a lot of women. But double standard.
Double standard. That's right.
But a woman's a slut. I had to finish my sentence.
And so like instead, this is like an age-old power play, right? Like this sort of like fuck whoever you want, sexual liberation, power, like being naked in front of your subordinate, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it's a female being naked in front of her subordinate, but like puts on a robe, but instead of Weinstein or whatever, it's this lady.
Yeah, and then she's just like laying down on the couch.
Yeah.
She's just like
in her robe, sort of open. Yeah. Yep, and so like it's this age-old power play that they're playing with.
Yep.
And Teresa's obviously uncomfortable.
Yeah,
this poor woman is like uncomfortable in every situation. She hates the park. Yeah. She had that shitty exchange with Ford. She's been fucking a robot and she didn't know it. Now she's with the CEO lady in a robe. Like this poor woman.
CEO lady's like. He's like, I like you, not personally.
I don't like you.
Yeah, I like you, not personally, but for this role.
It's so Stone Cold. Our little research project. So they're talking about the woodcutter, Smash Head. What do we call him? Self-Smash Head.
Smash Head.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so we realize what the play is, right? The play is to download all the source code, right? Which in engineer speak is it's the stuff that is created, right? It's what you license. The intellectual
property.
Right, it's the intellectual property. They're going to download that.
Yeah.
And then they're not going to fire Ford. She says, you don't ask a man, you don't fire a man like Ford.
Yep.
You ask him to retire politely.
You ask him politely to retire. And if he, she calls it our little research project, but if that man can erase 30 years of information that only exists in this park with a snap of his fingers.
Which he made sure of. He made sure that it only existed here.
Yep. Because this is the little dangler, right? Like this is a little breadcrumb because somebody in our organization dropped the ball 30 years ago. They missed something. And so this information only exists in the park.
Yep.
And so, like, that's something I want to put a pin in and, pay attention to for the future.
Yeah, and Ford
because it's got to be
been-
Logan or William, right? Like, because they go
Yes.
on to buy up everything.
Right.
But they must, like, not do a deal well enough or something where all the information gets stored in the park only, which is why they're trying to smuggle out the IP. And she says, he could just snap his fingers and delete everything. And that's the sort of end of the scene. So they're in cahoots.
Yep.
She's trying to, get this information out to her corporate overlords. Ford is the enemy. We go from there back to Maeve. Business as usual. The music starts up. She starts her day. She's walking along, goes into her little bar, sees Clementine, our favorite prostitute. There's guys fighting. And then Clementine just stops. And Maeve's like, oh, that's weird, and looks around.
And everyone has stopped.
Everyone's fucking stopped except Maeve.
And now she's like, oh shit. And because she's so
away.
smart now, she turns away from the bar, towards the bar, and freezes, doesn't move.
But her eyes look spooked. There is such great acting in this show. Oh, it's so real.
You think
you can almost feel your own heart beating.
Yeah, and the way they're talking, the way you hear in the background, they go, oh, it's the one over by the bar. I don't know what she did to have us, we're gonna grab her in pure daylight.
Yep, this is real bad.
Real quick, right before this, CEO lady says we need like a show of force, and these gods demand a blood sacrifice.
Yes,
that's very important.
Yep,
we find out later.
Yep. So they demand a blood sacrifice.
And Teresa looks back at Hector, and CEO lady goes, no, that's a bit too obvious.
Yep. I wonder if he's been recording their entire conversation.
I don't necessarily know if it's Hector.
Do you think he has the whole place bugged?
I think that's what.
It doesn't hurt that there's a host.
It doesn't hurt that there's a host there, right? But I mean, you hear in the later on scene, which we'll talk about later on. But in that scene, Ford says, like, basically is whispering in Teresa's ear, like, it's Arnold and I built every inch of this place.
Yes.
If you don't think, basically what he's saying is, if you don't think I have cameras and bugs in every place, you are dumb.
It's so good. Yeah. Maeve, business as usual, world freezes. Instead of taking her, and she holds her shit together. So she has like a shank or something. Like, she's ready.
Yeah, she's ready to fight.
As soon as somebody grabs her, she's going to kill a human. That's going to be the end of Maeve.
Right.
And they come right next to her. Like, they brush her and then take Clementine away. Mm-hmm. And she is like panicked. But she held it together. Again, Maeve is an exceptional creature. Like, she shows restraint.
Do you think she's a Generation 1? She has to be, right?
I don't know if she is, right? Like, we assume, but the only ones that we know are Dolores and Slim.
Yeah. Rowdy. And probably Abernathy 1. But so
we'll see.
I guess she can't be, because she keeps getting fixed by those guys, and he says to them, like,
they lost grace. So like her face isn't gonna
her
face isn't gonna open like in 4 quadrants like the boys.
Yeah, Felix says to her, like,
so many upgrades.
Well, Felix says to her, like, yeah, we're the same basically except for what's here. So I guess that takes away from the fact. So Maeve's definitely not a Gen 1.
Yep.
So what's interesting is then how did Maeve start becoming self-aware?
Right.
There's no bicameral mind. Dolores triggers her, right? But if she's not a Gen 1, she doesn't have this bicameral mind receiver in her brain. But
she's got to.
That maybe is something to put a pin in for now. So
Oh, so they demand the blood. The gods demand a blood sacrifice.
Yep.
Maeve thinks she's going to get picked up, but they take Clementine, who we call our favorite prostitute anyway.
Yep.
And then Ford, Bernard, Teresa, the CEO, stage this bloodbath. There's a very human presenting host, which shocked me. Like, I forgot that I've seen all this before. It shouldn't shock me, but it does. They had the guy that just sort of violently beats up Clementine is a host himself.
Yep, but they coded him to read as human so that,
Which they say, we coded him to read as human, which tells us that he can be, you can program people to read as human, which we will find out in exquisite detail by the end of the episode.
Right. This is where they're definitely dropping some very obvious hints.
Yep.
Like, this is possible. This is possible. This is possible. Reveal.
Yep. And I think that this scene is beautifully done. Whoever directed this, whoever put together this particular episode, did it beautifully in a literary way. Everything that happens in this scene foreshadows the end scene.
Yes.
Because we have the repetition. You've got, instead of Clementine, we're going to have Teresa.
Yep.
And instead of the, violent human presenting robot, we're going to have Bernard.
Yep.
And down to the head smash and the blood sacrifice.
Yep.
And the only thing that moves in this scene, once Ford enters that room, are his uncanny blue eyes. He doesn't move a fucking muscle. He just watches every move that the CEOs are making in this charade.
Yeah. And it becomes obvious in a later scene, right? We can see like Ford's like kind of smiling and he's like, this is bullshit, right? And then
he's got it all figured out.
They fire Bernard in this scene.
In that scene, yeah.
Right?
Unless because they give him the option of flipping on Ford, right?
Yeah, they're basically trying to say like, hey dude, like, who really made this code? Who really put it in?
We know it was the Reveries.
Right.
You are the top in the chain in your behavioral department. This is a behavioral problem.
Yep.
Unless you can give us a bigger fish, it's your ass.
Yep.
And he just
doesn't
says,
turn, and Ford doesn't move a fucking muscle.
Doesn't move a muscle, only his eyes.
Yep.
And he commands a room. I mean, Anthony Hopkins, holy shit. Yeah. He's so good.
Absolutely.
He's so good, Dave.
Yep.
It makes me want to go watch his early stuff. Anyway,
right? And then later on,
yep,
we see Bernard is talking to Teresa.
Yep.
And
it's so good. It's so good. Oh, I wonder if I have any clips. Hold on, I do have clips, but I don't know if I have clips for that. Yeah, no, not yet. Okay, we're good. We're good. They're all from the end.
Bernard says to Teresa, like, obviously you guys did a shitty job of putting on this charade. Like, if I saw through it, just imagine what Ford saw.
If I saw through it, I can only imagine what Ford is thinking.
Yeah.
And so, because Bernard, who's now been fired, the CEO who was fucking the robot, fires Bernard. You can't, heads will roll. And so he gets fired and dismissed. And we end that scene on Ford's cold blue eyes, just seeing everything. We transition from there to the train machine gun fight with Dolores and William in them. But we come almost immediately back to the scene with Teresa and Bernard, which is the pivotal scene of the whole show.
Right.
And the finale. So before we get to the finale.
Of this episode.
Yes.
Yeah,
the train machine gun fight. So we've got Dolores and Lawrence and William.
And
they're playing poker.
Yep.
And William is like, Dolores, why don't you play around? I'm being shitty at poker. Why don't you play?
Yeah.
Lawrence is like, she's nursing a grudge.
Yep.
She hates me. If I had the chance to sell you guys out, I'd do it all over again.
He goes, if I had a chance to what does he say? To backstab you fuckers again, I'd do it again.
Just as hard.
Just as hard. Yeah, I'd fuck you just as hard. That's what he says. Yep.
Also, very cool slotted windows, the sort of steel protectors that fall down. So cool. The set design in this is just exquisite.
Yeah.
And the ominousness. So they're going through the territory and there's scalps. Yep. There's just heads on spikes, sort of skulls in the...
But what's interesting is that the ambush that's set up for them is not by the Ghost Nation, right? It's the Confederales, right? They show up and they're like, El Lazo, blah, blah, blah. Come out and Laz sends Slim full of nitroglycerin.
Crying milk. Did you see his milk tears coming out of his eye?
Well, that was, I think, nitroglycerin.
Was
and
it?
that's when they are like, what the fuck is this? And
shit.
then, they blows up.
And I was like, so this is when I thought, they have to rebuild Slim, but they have him saved somewhere. So all they have to do is print him from scratch. But you can print him again. It'll be fine. You've already got all that work in, the thousands of hours developing him. You already have all that stuff. So
we know it takes less
than... The machine gun is there. They machine gun the train.
Yep.
A Gatling gun.
Gatling gun the train. Yep. No one gets hurt.
There's a lot of this show was the chase scene.
Yep.
And the sort of... the Ghost Nation that comes out of the trees and bows and arrows. It's very exciting. The horses
a lot of action.
Thundering through the woods. Dolores hits a branch, falls off her horse. William
goes
wheels
back.
around heroically and scoops her up on the back, and they're running away.
Yep.
Arrows. Now we have,
guns, arrows going
Ghost
both
Nation
directions.
is coming in.
Finally, they get away from the Ghost Nation. They're with Lawrence, and, all of a sudden we see where the mountains meet the sea, which is what Dolores was drawing before, and she just locks eyes on this place, jumps off the horse, starts walking to it, and she says, "My dreams, the place in my dreams," and
it's real.
Yeah, and William goes, "This is the place you drew."
Yeah, and
Lazarus, he comes up, Lawrence,
Lazo
Lawrence. I keep going to call him Lazarus, but his name is Lawrence.
Well, he does keep rising from the dead.
That's true.
Heyo.
Hey, does he have a furious rage though, or a ominous fury, whatever? Anyway, so he comes up and he says, "Well, I'm gonna keep heading on the fight. Do you want to come, little lady?" And she goes, "No, I can't go." And he's like, "How about you?" And this seems very scripted, right?
Yeah.
This seems like a very much like a this is an offer to a guest to join him on his journey. This is a quest.
Right.
He's saying, "Are you going to join me on this quest?" And they both say no. We got to go west. And then he says, "Well, be careful." And or
the
something
only
like that.
thing that comes back asks, "So what's out there? What can you tell me about this next stage out here?"
He goes, "Nothing. Nothing's ever come back."
That's right. Ask the dust. No one that's ever gone that way has ever come back. And then he takes both horses. Doesn't leave them the horses. No, Eliza takes all three horses. The one he's on.
He's
the
on
two he's
one.
on. Yeah.
He's on one, and then he has two dead bodies slumped over to two other horses. And then does he take...
He takes all the horses and leaves. Leaves them standing, looking over that beautiful canyon where the sky meets the mountains, meets the water, whatever. And that's where we leave William and Dolores, who Dolores is in her, badass outfit where she's got her gunslinger belt and her button-down shirt. Side note, point of personal privilege. I was at back-to-back comic book conventions. A lot of Dolores cosplay, and
in the Western outfit or in the blue dress.
So one in the blue dress, which was perfectly done. But then a couple in the gunslinger outfit. I loved it, man. Cosplaying is where it's at.
Were any of them listeners of Westworld when Everly?
I don't know. So comic book conventions get a little overwhelming and busy. And so
you don't plug the podcast at all?
I have been. And it's on my little business card that I give out.
Podcasting?
Yeah. And I told people that Dolores means sorrow, people that are into it. So I talk about the show with some folks. But anyway,
very cool.
So Maeve, from there, that's the last we see of William and Dolores for the episode. And then we get Maeve saying, "Where's Clem?" She wakes up dead, and she's like, "Where's Clementine?
Yeah.
Take me to her."
No, we can't take you there.
Felix is like, "Fuck no."
Yeah.
It says that she's about to get her brainalyzer.
Yeah. Lobotomized.
Lobotomized.
And he's like, "You will take me." And he goes, "Okay, yes, dear."
Yep.
Takes him upstairs, and we see Sylvester the molester
drilling out her
brain. And Maeve sees him. Yep. He sees Maeve. He's like,
and he feels shitty. He has an emotional reaction to this. He's about to murder her friend in front of her.
Yep. And he knows how dangerous she is, I think. And he's like, "Oh, fuck."
Yep.
And which is rightly so, because later on in the episode, she says, and maybe this is is this the ending scene or right before the ending scene?
Right before the...
He says, Maeve says to them, "You guys are going to help me escape." And Sylvester's like, "Why the fuck would I do that? Every inch of you was designed to keep you here. Your skin, your brain, this building, everything was designed to keep you here. They'll just kill you out there." And she goes, "I'm not afraid of death. I've died thousands of times or millions of times. I'm actually pretty good at it. But how many times have you died?"
It's so stone cold. It's so good, Dave. It's so good.
"If you don't help me, I'll kill you. And you don't come back," is what she said.
That was her. "You two are going to help me." Her final thought was, "How many times have you died?"
Yep.
Oh, man, that's the shit. And here we come to the final scene. Bernard gets Teresa.
So Bernard says, "I got to show you something. Come here." And,
if I saw through that little charade, I can only imagine what Ford is thinking. And she's like, "In your new employment status, I don't think that you get to tell me shit, dude."
Yep.
And he was like, "Listen, if I saw through that, imagine what Ford thinks. Listen, 40 years ago, Ford's partner wrote half the code that these hosts rely on. There's a connection between improvisation and repetition. The hosts," and as he's telling her all this, they're like, she agrees to walk with him through the park. He's going to show her something. They're in an elevator. There's a security risk. You're the security person. I'm coming to you with this. And she says, "Well, if it's a security thing in the elevator, shouldn't we have guards?"
Yeah.
And he says, "Who would you trust? for instance, I thought I could trust you, he says to her. Oh my God, it's so perfect. He gets her alone. She goes against her own, like, security interests and follows this man that she trusts, you know, on this thing because of her own culpability, her own guilt, her own, you know, like, she was just caught out on this and, you know, she's afraid he's got her on her heels. There's a connection between improvisation and repetition. The hosts were on the verge of some kind of change.
Yeah.
A breakthrough. Let me show you something. Should we bring a security team? Who would we trust? I trusted you, for instance. Oh, it's so good. It's so good, Dave.
So he brings her to the house, right? And he's walking through the house and he's looking for the 5.
She says the corporation's interests here are not in tourists playing cowboy.
Right.
Right? Like, this is bigger than this fucking dilly-dally that people are doing down here with the fucking and the fighting. You know, and she's like, do you have any idea what we're up against here? And so this is, when they're in the house.
So this is a huge...
So he takes her there.
He takes her there. He takes her to the house in Sector 17. And this is a huge revelation moment where, you know, he's looking through the house with her. And she goes, what's behind this door? And he goes, what door?
And it's there the whole time. We've seen this. If you're paying attention, you've seen this scene earlier.
Yep. But you don't see the door.
It's the spot where Ford appeared. But now, with Teresa there... that spot that she's standing in, that was Ford's spot that he stood in, has a giant, unmissable, dark brown door in front of it. Like a big... It wasn't like one of these wallpaper hidden doors situation. Like, there's a obvious door right here.
There. Yeah.
Ugh. And so... What door? He can't see it. Yeah.
So she walks through it.
Yeah.
And I guess then he's like, I guess I follow.
Yeah.
And so he follows through it. And this is where you're first like... Wait, he can't see the door.
Wrong. Something's up here.
He's a host.
And they're
he's
doing
a fucking host.
and they're doing the horror movies. Like, I didn't know he was a host until like he's actually a host. Like, I did not anticipate this.
I totally called it when I saw
was
this
like,
scene.
you know, and I should have, but like I said, I had kind of a split focus when I was watching it. I think I was working at the same time. Excuses.
So
they walk downstairs
and she says like, "Oh, what is this place?" And he said, "This is where Bernard actually says." Oh, this is a remote test station, blah, 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 blah.
But look at this machine. It's actually, it's an older model, but it's pretty new.
He says it's a new it's a newer machine, but it's a slower model
than what we have
could still
at
rent
the
Mesa at the Mesa.
Yeah.
But this could still render a host in 2 to 3 days.
In a couple of days. Yeah. 2 to 3 days. And it's building something. So is it building a man? The only thing on there is like a shoulder and chest area.
Yeah, and like a leg.
And a leg, like an upper thigh. And it looks like a muscly man thigh to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, man thighs.
You know, we don't know.
So, and then Teresa's in the corner and she's seeing papers and she sees one that says Dolores Prototype.
And she's looking at it and it's like it's sort of like the Vesuvian Man, or what is it called, with Leonardo
Da Vinci,
and and you know, the
it's
guy
an
in the
engineering
circle.
sketch, right, of a woman, right? It says Dolores Prototype on it.
Yeah.
She flips the page and her face just drops completely.
I mean, if you're this hindsight is 2020, I would just be like, oh, okay, I'll just slowly back out of this room. I'm gonna go check something up in the house and then fucking run like hell. You're gonna die. There's no way. There's 5 other hosts upstairs. Like, you're not gonna.
Yeah, you're fucked.
You're done.
And
you're
so
done.
she sees this, her face goes white, and she says, Bernard, have you seen this?
Yep. What is this, Bernard?
And then you see it, and it's...
You don't see it. You see him.
It yet?
So she's looking at it. You can see the papers in the foreground and her behind the papers holding them so she can read them. Her face falls. Something's fucked up.
Yeah.
She looks at Bernard, and she says, what is this, Bernard? And she hands him the papers without us seeing them.
Yeah.
And he looks at it, and he kind of gets a quizzical look.
This looks like nothing to me.
This doesn't look like anything to me.
Yeah. And her face goes, oh.
And then from behind...
Host alert! Host alert!
Whoop, whoop, whoop. From behind, Ford's very calm... very calm voice says, they can't see what can harm them.
Yep. I've spared them that at least. And then you see the paper, right? And it's a fucking drawing of Bernard.
It's a drawing of Bernard, the prototype for Bernard with his face and everything. Oh, it's so good. In a way, their lives are purer than ours.
Oh, this part is great.
Free from the burden of self-doubt.
Yeah.
Their lives are blissful. You're a fucking monster. Am I? You're the one that would so blithely destroy all of them. Even him, I suppose. And Bernard is like freaking out, and he's like, I'm not a robot. I can't be a robot. I can't be a robot.
He's like, I'm not one of them. What?
I have a family. I'm not one. And he goes,
that's enough, Bernard.
That's enough, Bernard. And he just
shuts down.
Stops.
I wouldn't want you to overwork yourself or something. He says, get worked up.
It's so good. And so
we don't want you to get worked up now.
So this is where we have a couple of things.
So some clippies.
Yep.
Clip.
Yeah.
Clip.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to do them in order. There's 3 of them.
Okay.
And it begins with peacock feathers, the best fucking thing. He's talking to Teresa, and he's talking about design and art and sort of why the most beautiful things in the world, the greatest things that ever were created, come from the human intellect. And there was a theory that the human intellect is essentially a vanity project so that you can get laid.
I read a theory once that the human intellect was like peacock feathers, just an extravagant display intended to attract a mate. All of art literature, Beethoven, Mozart, William Shakespeare, Michelangelo, and the Empire State Building. Just an elaborate mating ritual. Maybe it doesn't matter that we have accomplished so much for the basest of reasons. But of course the peacock can barely fly. It lives in the dirt, pecking insects out of the muck, consoling itself with its great beauty.
Oh, it's so good. Consoling itself with its great beauty. Obviously, he's talking about humanity, right? So he's talking about the human intellect.
Yeah, of course.
And it consoles itself with its great beauty while it picks maggots from the muck, or like insects from the muck. This is his view, Ford's view of humanity.
Yep.
He watches the wealthiest, top of the, their food chain
such
dudes come in.
sociopathic tendency to come up with these great, precise analogies. Like, do you think an evil genius in real life would come up with something like this? No, this is like a planned thought
so
that he's had.
And it reminds me of the last episode, not 6, but 5, where he sits down with the man in black and he says, even in my Ford writes stories. He has written the story.
Even in my wildest dreams, I could never come up with a man like you.
Yes. Like, you are outside of anything I can invent. And he invented the whole fucking world, including all of this. And his take on humanity is this peacock rooting in the muck shit, right? Like, it consoles itself with its great beauty. Like, you think you're so awesome and you come here and you give into your baser instincts. You fuck and you fight and you're disgusting and you have no integrity or honor or moral center. Like, this is the God version of the world that he created, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Let's continue, shall we?
Let us.
All right. He's talking about now being free from guilt, the sort of hosts and why they're better.
The hosts are free, why they're better than us.
Yeah. Here we go.
I have come to think of so much of consciousness as a burden, a weight, and we have spared them that. Anxiety, self-loathing, guilt. The hosts are the ones who are free. Free, here, under my control.
Oh my God, what a fucking statement!
Oh, Dave. Free here under my control.
No, he says free yet under my control.
Guilt, anxiety, self-loathing. So Ford, right, is telling us about himself here.
Yeah.
He misses his partner. He feels deep guilt. He feels anxiety because Dolores can lie to him.
Yep.
He has self-loathing because he was so corrupt when he was young. He, sacrificed all his principles. I don't remember their actual falling apart. I'm very much looking forward to reliving that so I can remember it properly.
Next couple episodes,
But like, he carries Arnold dies or commits suicide by host in the park to teach his partner a lesson.
Yep.
Right? And then continues to haunt him for the rest of his life. The guilt.
30 plus years later, Arnold's still fucking up there.
He built an Arnold lookalike, right? Like, he built a partner to work with under his thumb, right? It's so crazy. He says later, sort of following this, I simply wanted to tell my stories. She goes, so you wanted to create a world where you could play God? And he's offended. He's like, I just wanted to tell my stories. It was you people that wanted to play God.
Yep.
And every year they send me somebody new, like you. You know, I think they enjoy
every
the
once in a
sport
while.
of it. Yeah.
Every once in a while they poke me, basically is what he says. Every once in a while they poke me and try to get me out.
Yes.
I think they enjoy the sport of it.
I think they enjoy the sport of it. Sadly, in order to restore things to the way they were, there must be a
blood sacrifice. Oh my god! This moment is just like, yeah, I know fucking everything.
In her ear. Oh man! And I'm watching. I'm like, Catherine, just grab a scalpel, something, just shake him real quick, like something. And he goes, you know, so Bernard, you know, this was what you did. He goes, he wasn't here in those days, were you, Bernard? And he goes, do you know what he tells Bernard to kill her? What the command is?
I forget what it was, but it was something very benign, right? It was like clean up or something, or
yeah. He goes, you know, he issues the death sentence so sort of casually, you know, and he's like, Bernard takes off his glasses.
Takes off his tie, takes off his jacket.
Yeah, and she's like, no, don't do this. She goes, they're not under your control, are they? Because Bernard doesn't trust you. He brought me here because he suspects you. And Ford is like...
Bernard did what I told him to do.
He brought you here because I told him to bring you here.
Yep.
He's doing everything that I want him to do. Right, Bernard? I think he's going, you know, a blood sacrifice needs to be made.
Yep.
Bernard can help you with that. And he starts taking off his tie, hangs his coat delicately on the back of the chair, takes off his glasses, starts walking towards her, violently murders her. But here's the command. We're going to end on this one last stump, Dave. I want you, knowing what you know of the show, of the sort of history of everything.
Okay.
See if you can name this quote, where it comes from. It's very famous.
Okay.
But the sort of killing command is, you know, we've seen Ford do this kind of thing before.
In that sleep, what dreams may come.
I'll play it again.
Let's sleep, what dreams may come. You don't need to play it again.
In that sleep, what dreams may come.
Now let's sleep and let dreams may come.
For in that sleep of death is what he doesn't say. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off that mortal coil must give us pause.
These violent delights.
Same author. Who was it?
Oh, I forget his name. No. Hemingway. Poe. Is it Poe? It's Shakespeare. Oh my God. Ugh.
Hemingway would be delighted in an alcoholic way that you equated him to Shakespeare. But yes, it's Shakespeare. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off that mortal coil must give us pause. It is the soliloquy in...
Hamlet?
Yes! In Hamlet. It's one of the most famous bits of writing. Yes, it's the to-be speech.
To be.
That is the question. Whether to suffer the slings and
whether
arrows
it was
of
nobler
fortune, or by resisting. No.
Anyway. I remember that the mostly from the movie Billy Madison.
Yes.
When he's standing on the stage.
To weep, to
weep, to cry.
No more.
No more.
Oh, so yes, this shuffling off the mortal coil is interesting. This is the last thought we'll leave our sober audience, I hope you're not too sober, to ruminate on.
Ooh, big word. What does that mean? Gestate? Are we gestating this?
We're going to think. We're going to think on it a bit.
We're going to think on it. Okay, ruminate.
Yeah, we're going to ruminate on this, on this.
In that sleep, what dreams may come.
For in that sleep, what dreams may come. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come. Do we dream when we die? Shakespeare is saying that when you shuffle off that mortal coil, will there be any other part of you, any dreaming part of your consciousness that continues on? And so for Ford to use this as his killing command, knowing that Teresa doesn't get a do-over.
She doesn't get to come back. She doesn't have a reverie. She's just gonna die.
Or if he's building a Teresa robot.
Or
is Bernard the dream that happened after Arnold shuffled off his mortal coil? There are a lot of questions.
Yeah, the question is Arnold still alive in the park? Because, we hear Becky say something like that, like someone's been coding him Arnold.
Yeah.
It's this guy named Arnold.
See, I always assumed that it was Bernard coding
acting as Arnold. Yeah, we don't know.
And then there's also the Arnold on the Wi-Fi.
Maybe Arnold uploaded his consciousness somehow or something, and that's where we're getting the bicameral mind from. But that's something for you to ruminate on, because that's exactly the type of questions we want you to think about here on Westworld Wheneverly. And of course, of course, we're going to leave you here now, but we do want to say this. We are going to finish.
Oh, yes. We always finish, Dave. Not on time, perhaps.
Not always at the same time.
It's not really a set schedule.
It's not it's just wheneverly. That's kind of the way it works. We just finish wheneverly.
When does the season start up again?
The season starts up on Sunday the 22nd, which is this Sunday. This coming Sunday. 1 week from today. We have 7 days.
7 days to get through 3 more episodes. We can do it.
I think we're going to do another doubler.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do the finale as a single episode.
All right. All right, you guys, if you have any questions or want us to pay attention to anything, email us at Westeros, Wheneverly, one word, at gmail.com.
You can tweet us at Tana Ford or at W4RRI. That's at Worry with a 4 for the A.
Yep.
You can tweet at us.
Yeah.
And we'll
tweet us your questions.
We'll get back to you as best we can.
In a week, because we're going to be there, man.
We're going to be there.
At the finale. Oh, it's getting so good. The CEOs are coming in.
Come on this ride with us.
Oh, it's so good.
And lose control because you're not Britpop.
You're not Britpop. All men. Nope.
This drink
looks like nothing to me.